Knowing what you don't know. Solving this problem is something that large organizations put a lot of time, effort, and money into. What you know about is something you can plan for, and even if it's a threat to your business, you can put things in place to mitigate the risk. But if you don't know about something, you can't plan, and hence you can't exploit it or protect against it. In my experience, when someone sets up a new business, they do their homework and have a good idea about pretty much everything. But once they get going, their heads are in the detail of running the operation, managing staff, recruiting, making sales, and dealing with clients. They don't always notice the subtle and long-term changes that are taking place in the background, and don't have time to keep an eye on what's going on outside of their business. There are two quite well-known tools that larger businesses use to make sure they have considered everything they need to when they are making their plans, and these are equally useful to SMEs. The first is Porter's 5 Forces. This is a list of factors that Professor Michael Porter identified as being the key things businesses need to know about to be able to plan effectively, and grouped into 5 generic forces that act on a firm. Now, you can easily look into the detail of the factors under each force over the internet, so I'm just going to point out a few things about how to apply it to SMEs. First is that what's important is that you feel you know something about each of the factors. You don't have to be an expert or spend ages researching them. You just need to know how it affects you now, is it changing, and will the change be good or bad for you? That's all. And if you can say that this factor doesn't really matter, that's fine too. Second is that for SMEs, one of the most important forces to think about is substitutes. This is because SMEs often do or try to do something unique, and so they imagine they have no competitors. This is dangerous because even if you don't have direct competitors, you do have substitutes, which are companies or products that deliver similar benefits but in a different way. For example, if you've come up with a great new device that makes beer at home, you may be the only person doing it, but you are competing against the supermarkets who sell beer and pubs which serve it. So understanding the factors around substitutes are really key. The other tool firms use is the SCP, or Structure, Conduct and Performance, which was developed by McKinsey. This is a bit different as it looks at the business environment more broadly but less deeply than Porter's. But you use it in exactly the same way. You take each factor, make sure you know what the situation is at the moment, whether it's changing, and whether that change is good or bad for you. The interesting thing is that the SCP brings out the external shocks that could affect your industry, and these are often the sources of opportunity for firms that are creative enough and courageous enough to seize them, which SMEs often are. So having used these tools, how do they help? Well, in one very important way. They ensure there's nothing important that you aren't aware of. And if there's anything you don't know, these tools highlight it so that you can find out and include that knowledge in your future plans. Once you've got a good understanding of your industry, you can come up with different growth options. So in the next video, I'll talk about some of the tools to help you decide which of those options to focus on.